Welcome to another edition of SVSU Red Alert, your weekly update on Saginaw Valley State University athletics. I'm your host, JJ Boehm. The SVSU football team lost a heartbreaker to Hillsdale for homecoming. We'll review that one and also preview their upcoming matchup against Michigan Tech with SVSU football coach Jim Collins, and we'll get an update on men's soccer with Cale Wasserman. That's all ahead on SVSU Red Alert. Welcome back to SVSU Red Alert. I'm joined now by SVSU football coach Jim Collins. And Coach, the game against Hillsdale is one of those games all night long you felt like it was going to come down to one play, and it ultimately did, and Hillsdale made one more play than you did.
Give them credit, JJ. You know, they did a great job on that last drive, and the guy makes a great catch. We had a hand on it. It was bobbled a little bit, but he came down with it. And then the disappointing thing is we didn't make the most of our opportunity there at the end of the game to try to get back in the end zone and get points on the board, and unfortunately we came up with a loss.
And this is one of those games that I think you really get a good sense of the way that your team is going to compete throughout the year, because this was one of those games really, I thought from the first quarter you could tell neither team's really going to pull away. They both showed up to play.
Exactly. And you know, we knew that we had a football team and that our guys were going to compete and play hard and do the things it takes. You know, we just didn't do the things at the end of the game that we had done in the 3 previous weeks, and that's close it out and make the play to win it. But you can't give Hillsdale enough credit for the way they played, and then also you give our guys credit because they competed hard for 60 minutes.
And one of the things that, you know, it's kind of a double-edged sword too, is that you're impressed with how they competed. At the same time, boy, it was tough to stop Joe Glendenning. He had an amazing game for Hillsdale, over 200 yards rushing, over 300 all-purpose yards.
He's an outstanding player. We had a tough time slowing him down. We had a tough time stopping him. He breaks tackles. He's got speed. And you know, they really know how to use him. They use him in the return game. They use him in the passing game. They use him in the running game. And, you know, Joe Glendenning is really the reason Hillsdale, I think, had that performance. He did it. He did a lot by himself.
And he's having a great start to his season. What do you do now for your team to get them rallied now to talk about that one? Because sometimes these losses are harder to take than the ones where you're never in the ball game.
They sure are, but I think the thing about our football team is we've got character. We've got guys that know how to battle through adversity. I am confident that we will bounce back with a vengeance. Now, that doesn't necessarily guarantee a win, but the way you prepare, the way you approach the next game, and the way you play in the next game is going to really be a good testament to what type of people we have. And I really think we have the type of people in our program that are going to work hard all week long and do the things it takes to prepare to win that football game.
We'll take a look at the highlights from the Hillsdale contest for SVSU. There were certainly a lot of them, including here on 4th down. Hillsdale goes for it, and you're able to stuff them.
Big stop there. You know, that's 2 weeks in a row we had big 4th down stop, and that allowed us to get the first drive of the game offensively down the field, and we end up scoring on a touchdown. John gets the ball in the end zone. Great effort by him. Good blocking up front. And to be able to go on the board first, you obviously feel good about that.
And here you get an opportunity to see the defense come up and make another play here, stripping the ball and then coming up with a turnover.
You know, JJ, this was the first time in our 4 games that we won the turnover battle. We created a turnover there with a great strip from Darius Middlebrooks. And then our offense was able to convert that into points, which I thought was really important.
So you get a look at it here as you had some good long runs on the night, including this one from Ronnie Lark.
You know, we did a good job of attacking the edge, and Ronnie had some big runs on our sweep play. And then, you know, to get the ball in the end zone here was really good, considering the fact that the play broke down a little bit. John scrambled, and then Nick Galena came up with a big catch.
Holds on despite taking a hit. And then here you get another one where perfectly thrown route there, or perfectly run route, perfectly thrown ball.
Well, we had Hillsdale sucked up from play action. We had been running the ball really well on the outside, and the safety came up hard, and we ended up, converting that to a touchdown. Great to get a sack in that situation right there, because that they had an opportunity there to get 6, and we held them to a field goal, which I thought was key. Pressured the quarterback. Good individual play there by Darius. You know, our defense was up against it because I thought Hillsdale the offense was excellent, but they did come up with a lot of big plays. And then we score here. You know, great individual effort, I thought, by Ronnie to get the ball across the plane. Really close, but he did cross the plane.
And so, again, this back-and-forth football game all night long, and then Cardinals back on defense here. Good
tackle there. You know, that was – and I'm going to say this. When we had hats around the football, we had success stopping Joe. When we didn't get enough hats near the football is when he had his way with us.
And again, here you see pressure and good job of forcing an early throw.
That was a key 3 and out because they had just scored to go ahead. Then we didn't get points. We got the 3 and out, and this enabled us to get the lead back there in the fourth quarter. And, you know, on the reverse play. And I really was confident at that point that the lead would stand. I thought we'd get a stop, especially when I saw the kickoff go through the end zone and have Hillsdale start the drive at their own 20. But Hillsdale made plays, and we didn't. And, you know, the outcome is what it is. We just got to move on, get better from it, and learn from it.
And as you said, that what ultimately becomes the game-winning touchdown for Hillsdale. Defender's right there. You're in good position. Makes the receiver bobble it, but he's able to get it down and get a foot down.
You know, that's the way things go sometimes, that we didn't get that break. You know, obviously we would have liked to knock the ball down, but we didn't. They made a great play, and like I said, I give them a lot of credit. We competed to the bitter end, no question about it, and we had our opportunities. We didn't convert, they did, and that's how they won the football game.
And you look at it, both teams were exceptional on third down, so a lot of long, sustained drives throughout this game. But again, Hillsdale comes up just with one more of them. This is one of those where sometimes it really is hard to take, isn't it?
Exactly, JJ. It's tough, you know, and as you said before, it's tough to recover from. But, you know, a character individual is going to bounce back from something like this stronger, accept the responsibility for what didn't happen during the course of the game that would have enabled us to win it, move on, learn from it, and be stronger the next time.
38-35, the final score. Hillsdale able to come up with the victory. Up next for the Cardinals, they will travel to Michigan Tech. We'll talk about that one with Jim Collins a little bit later on. But when we come back, we'll be joined by SVSU defensive line coach Neil Baumgartner. That's next on SVSU Red Alert.
This week's Spring Hill Suites Female Athlete of the Week is Andrea Grove. Grove, a sophomore forward on the SVSU women's soccer team, scored both goals for the Cardinals in the win at Northwood on Sunday, 10-2. Grove found the back of the net from 20 yards out off a pass from Olivia Perrin to tie up the match at 1-1. Grove scored her second goal of the game and her first game winner just 5 minutes into overtime off a pass from Charlie Porter, allowing the Cardinals to go on to a 2-1 victory. Andrea Grove, your Spring Hill Suites Female Athlete of the Week.
Welcome back to SVSU Red Alert. I'm joined now by SVSU defensive line coach Neil Baumgartner. Neil, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, JJ.
And you kind of had a different group this year than you did a year ago. Last year, not a whole lot of seniors. This year, you've got a very experienced group where everybody's got playing time from last year and years prior.
Yeah, last year was a more difficult experience going from having 4 senior starters the year before, but we knew with those guys gaining experience last year that was really going to pay off this year, and it has. And the guys that we have starting now all have valuable game experience. We've got a couple of seniors in Brandon Williams and Paul Webb who are playing very well for us. And then some younger guys, Nate Snyder's playing very well, Ryan Bush, and then other guys coming into the game and giving us some quality reps like Adrian Baker and Jordan Mako, Tony Icavoni. Those guys are really providing some quality depth and allowing me to play a lot of guys up front.
And that's something that really in terms of football has changed a lot over the years, is that you used to go out there, your front forward, pretty much play the whole game, but you're rotating probably 8 guys routinely and sometimes more.
Yeah, with the pace of the game now and just the way that it's so physical up front, if I can continue to roll guys in and keep them really fresh, I think that provides us an edge in the fourth quarter where the offensive line isn't going to substitute. And if I can keep rolling in fresh bodies and wear down the offensive line, hopefully, then that is our benefit in the fourth quarter.
You talk about the job that they're doing. I thought that the Northwood game was one where that defensive line really controlled the line of scrimmage. They were getting upfield and into Northwood's backfield all night long.
They were, and they did a great job. The whole defense did a great job of just playing assignment football. And it was an offense that we had honestly never seen before, hadn't practiced, but they went back to what we had practiced all week long, and assignment football. The guys up front tackling the dive, and when we had some different games on, tackling the quarterback and making plays in key situations.
And then you go to the Hillsdale game where, as a defensive lineman, it's got to be one of those things, you knew who was getting the ball a lot of the time, but being able to stop it's another thing.
It is, and again, it goes back to what we talked about with the guys up front and overall as a defense is just continuing to do your assignment and do your job, because you know that Glendenning was going to get the ball, and we knew that, and we knew we had to limit him, but we have to do our responsibility. And sometimes as a D lineman, that means taking on a double team, and you're not going to touch that running back, but if you can keep those two guys off, the linebackers and the DBs, then maybe they can make a play. So you just have to continue to fight and scratch, claw, do whatever you can up front to try and hold your gap and make it so that they can't gain any yards.
And playing defensive line is always interesting because you have to be very aggressive and very physical, but you also have to be disciplined.
You do, and that's especially going to come into play this week just as it did last week, and we talked about that in this morning's meeting with all the misdirection and the trick plays that Michigan Tech runs. They're good for about 4 or 5 a game of reverses, throwback screens, regular screens. We really have to be disciplined up front, and it's kind of like a controlled rage where you want to go get them, but you know that you can't. And so you have to just do your assignment, and it takes a lot of discipline, and that's why we continue to practice it every day so that in the game you're able to throttle it down when you need to and ramp it up when you need to.
And I know every coach would like to have more sacks from his defensive line, but the one thing that you can say about your unit thus far is that they've come up with sacks at key times. They've made some sacks at key moments in the game.
They have, and we keep pressing that we want to get more sacks, but if you can get the key sacks, I'd like to have the key sacks. You still like to have quantity, but the quality is there, and if we continue to press and continue to do our job, the sacks and the total number of sacks will come.
Well, we hope that does come here over the remaining games, and I always know that this is a special trip for you to be able to go up back to the UP, and so I'm sure you'll have your guys ready to go.
We'll be ready.
Neil Baumgartner, thanks for joining us. When we come back, we'll be joined by SVSU men's soccer coach Cale Wasserman. That's next on SVSU Red Alert.
Thank you for feeding my family.
Thank you for giving me shelter.
Thank you for giving me hope.
Support the Red Cross and change a life, starting with your own.
Welcome back to SVSU Red Alert. I'm joined now by SVSU men's soccer coach Cale Wasserman. Cale, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on the show today.
And you're off to a pretty good start this season. I'd have to think you're pleased with how the team is going so far.
Yeah, we had a very solid start. We set our expectations high this year, and the guys came into camp in shape, and we've kind of just built from that and got some good results this year already.
And a big win for you over the weekend against Ashland.
Yeah, yesterday we had Ashland here. Obviously, they were the conference tournament and regular season champions last year, and they beat us pretty handily here last season. So we were happy to get some sweet revenge and a 2-1 victory.
And now what do you do as you start looking ahead for what you have for the season remaining and for your team?
We're about the halfway point. Tomorrow we'll play Ohio Dominican, which will mark the halfway point in our conference season. So we just kind of look forward to the next game. We're not really looking too far in advance, just kind of thinking of it one game at a time and trying to continue progressing forward.
And I know that this is still a relatively young squad that you have as well.
Yeah, I would say so. We've got one senior on the roster, so we're going to bring back pretty much 11 starters. Andy starts some games for us, and he does a great job. But as far as youth, we've got 4 or 5 freshmen playing in every game, 4 or 5 sophomores playing in every game, and some solid juniors that will be coming back for their senior year next year. So we've got a great future ahead of us, and we look forward to it.
But getting back to the present, they're maybe young, but they're doing an awfully good job for you thus far.
Yep. Yesterday, our game winner was scored by a freshman, Lawrence Patterson. The first goal of the game was scored by a freshman, Tyler Channel, and those goals were both assisted by sophomores. So our youth and exuberance, I guess, we've gotten some great production from the young guys, but the juniors as well, the upperclassmen have done a great job bringing those guys in, making them comfortable, challenging them, and kind of encompassing the whole team atmosphere. Freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, doesn't really matter to us. If you're a Cardinal, you're a Cardinal as long as you're out there working hard.
And I would have to think, too, that to be able to have this successful start helps a lot for those young guys, because when young players play with confidence, they often play a little bit better.
Yeah, our first couple games were both regional games. We played Lewis University and then St. Joe's. So we were on the road for 5 games straight and came home with 5 victories. And I think those guys just fed off the energy. They were very comfortable after we got that first result, where they just were able to go out and play a little more open and not so timid, not so nervous. So it's good to see them out there kind of playing with confidence.
As you mentioned earlier, you're now getting into the meat of the conference season. Mm-hmm. What do you need to do to be successful here down this important stretch?
We've got a very, very tough conference. There's not that many teams, but there's a lot of quality, and we play everybody home and away. And it's just so important in soccer, the way the scoring works. You get 3 points for a win, 1 point for a tie, and 0 points for a loss. It's just important to stay organized. Giving up unnecessary goals can really eat away at your season. Most soccer games are decided on a 1-goal factor. Whether you're winning 2-1 or 3-2 or 1-0. I think every game this year almost for us has been a 1-goal game. So we just have to avoid unnecessary mistakes, stay organized, and just work hard for that 1 goal that we're looking for. So I just think that organization is the key for us.
How do you maintain this level of intensity now throughout conference play as well? Because as you mentioned, you wind up playing the same teams. They know you better. You know them better.
Yeah, every game is a challenge. You've got that second bite at a team, and they have the film on you. They know that you've beat them before, that they beat you, so they know your strengths and weaknesses. But I think what's helped us and what will continue to help us is the depth of our team. Every practice is competitive. Every guy is fighting for that starting spot every day. We haven't had the same starting lineup 2 games in a row all season. There's always 1 or 2 guys that are switching roles, and guys are fighting for that edge. So practice remains competitive, so we're prepared for the upcoming game, and everybody wants to play.
Well, we know everybody wants to play. We know that they want to continue this good start that you've had to begin the season. Cale Wasserman, good luck the rest of the way.
Thanks a lot, JJ.
And we thank you for joining us. When we come back, we'll be rejoined by SVSU head football coach Jim Collins. That's next on SVSU Red Alert.
This week's male Spring Hill Suites Athlete of the Week is Tyler Noble. Noble, a junior on the SVSU men's cross-country team, led the Cardinals to a second-place overall finish on Friday, 9:30, at the Lansing Community College Invitational. Noble finished in 7th place to pace the Cardinals, crossing the line at 25:49. Tyler Noble, your Spring Hill Suites Male Athlete of the Week.
Welcome back to SVSU Red Alert. Things certainly don't get any easier for the SVSU football team, now 3-1, still tied atop the North Division of the GLIAC Conference. They'll be taking on another one of those foes tied with them, the Michigan Tech Huskies, rejoined by SVSU head coach Jim Collins. And Coach, like I said, doesn't get any easier. Michigan Tech's another quality football team.
Sure doesn't. Michigan Tech's very good. Great defensively. I think they're 1 and 2 in just about every defensive category, which is really impressive. And then the other thing is they've done a good job of replacing last year's starters on offense, losing Steve Short and Phil Milbrath, and they've got a good combination of quarterback and running back, Tyler Scarlett at the quarterback position, and they're really scoring some points and playing well on offense.
And so this is another one of those where, is it helpful to have this much team building and camaraderie because it's a long trip up there?
Well, we've only had one long trip all year, and to be honest with you, I think it is. I enjoy the road trips, and I think our players do, because you get away and you get an opportunity to hang out the whole time, and there is some team building elements involved with that, obviously. But we've got a big challenge, and we've got to take a business-like approach to this thing, just like we did Lake Erie, and we've got to be at our best.
And that's one thing that, again, you've seen a lot of good play from this team, and I know that you're hoping that they can put it all together, because Michigan Tech's another one of those teams that you know they're going to compete till the bitter end.
Absolutely, and Michigan Tech has always been that way. And I think, last year's success that they had has kind of flowed into this year, and that's a team that last year had won their last 5 ball games. So, we've got a big challenge, and we understand it. But this game's going to be more about us. It's going to be how we respond to the adversity of what happened with our Hillsdale game and how we come back from that. And that's what I'm looking forward to seeing, how our guys come back from that loss stronger, more positive, and ready to go.
One of the strengths of this team, at least on the young season, has been pass protection. That's going to be tested against a very good Michigan Tech defensive line.
Right now, I think they're leading the league in sacks. And I'll tell you, they've got great people up front, athletic, big, strong, like always. And we've got to do a great job of protecting. We've got to do a great job of establishing the run, obviously, and not getting into a lot of passing situations where you have 3rd and longs. And then the other thing is we've got to continue to do a good job of getting rid of the ball and our guys coming up with the catches.
And then defensively, Michigan Tech is always one of those teams. They run the football a lot and then also bring misdirection off of it.
I think their run offense is very physical, but the other thing, as you mentioned, they do some nice little things. They'll always run a reverse or two during the course of the game, and they have a great screen game. And if they get all that going, it really keeps your defense off balance, and you got to read your keys and go where you got to go.
One of the things that continues to be a positive for this team as well is how much you're diversifying things on offense. There's not one guy that's making all the big plays. There's lots of guys making big plays.
That's the key, I think, to success in this league is keeping – people are too good at coaching and taking away what you do best. And so you've got to have other guys that can make plays for you, and you're going to have to call on other guys to make plays in situations. We've been fortunate that we've spread it around, so it's hard to key on one guy. But once again, we got to continue to improve and enhance the whole thing.
You mentioned earlier that you won the turnover battle against Hillsdale, didn't turn it over at all yourself. I'm sure that that's something that you'd like to see continue.
Exactly. That's a plus, and we did a good job of that. We made a conscious effort in our play calling and our decision making, and our guys obviously did a great job of taking care of the football. That's got to continue. That's going to help us down the road. You're not going to lose too many games where you don't turn it over, and that's got to continue week in and week out.
Well, hopefully you can get that and get everything else all going together. As you said, long trip up there, but a good chance for some team building.
Yes, thanks, JJ.
And we thank Jim Collins for joining us, and we wish good luck to the Cardinals as they travel to Michigan Tech, and we hope that you have enjoyed this edition of SVSU Red Alert.